Welcome back to INF People. Today we'll talk a little bit about the game Final Fantasy VII and the character of Cloud Strife. So sorry I haven't uploaded in a long time. I've been working on some scripts for some artist profiles and some character profiles that I really want to get right. So they're taking a little bit of time. But I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the game Final Fantasy VII and what it means to me and how it changed my life. So there was just the TGS showcase and the trailer for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm super excited about that because that's probably my favorite game of all time, the original Final Fantasy VII. And so yeah, let me just talk a little bit about how it changed my life and made me the person I am today, sort of. So before I made a video about INFP authenticity, and I just sort of told a story about like how I was growing up and like how I kind of found myself and like how like how I changed from the way I was acting before, or like I was kind of putting on a front before, and I've finally found my like real self. And Final Fantasy VII was a big part of how that happened. So let me tell you why. So well, before I talked about like TRD, like this persona I had, like trying to be tough and like cool, and like basically just trying to fit in with the people around me at my school, and growing up as a teenager. So yeah, I didn't really play. I mean, I played video games, but I didn't play, or I just played like the kind of games that guys played back then, like sports games, like shooters, stuff like that. I didn't get into like any of the stuff that I thought was like nerdy or geeky or anything like that. And my cousin Jason, who's still my best friend now, he kept telling me like, man, you got to try this game, Final Fantasy VII. It's amazing. And I was just like, what is that? Like one of those RPG games or something like that nerds play that like, and I was like, I'm not playing anything like that. Like, why would I play something like that? And he would just, every time I would come over to his house, he'd just be like, man, you got to play this game. I'm telling you, you have to check it out. And I would just always be like, no, man, I'm not messing with that kind of stuff. I only just play like NBA Live and Madden and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not really trying to get into that sort of geeky stuff that that I'm not really into. And so eventually he showed me this in like biggest spoiler ever. And let me just say, spoiler alert right now, if you haven't played if you don't know the story of Final Fantasy VII and you're interested in knowing about it later, like playing the remake, and you don't want the story spoiled, spoiler alert right here, because I'm going to be talking about like story stuff and everything like that. So he showed me the scene of Eris's death when Sephiroth killed Eris, and I was just like, my mind was blown. I had never seen anything like that in a video game, like story and just in like the music, everything, and it was like so emotional. And I like, to me, video games were just like Mario and stuff like that. You just do to pass the time, or like competitive things like sports games and shooters and stuff like that. I never saw video games as an avenue for storytelling until I saw that scene, and I was just like, what is this? This is incredible. And so finally I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this game a chance. It looks interesting. It looks pretty cool. So yeah, I played Final Fantasy VII. I didn't have a PlayStation, so I used to have Nintendo consoles all the time. So every time I went to his house, I would always play Final Fantasy VII. Like, and he was fine with it because he loved it so much. He was just okay with just watching me play it. And so I would go to his house every time and play that game until I eventually finished it. And it changed my whole perception of everything. Like the way I looked at everything was just different. Like, yeah, I don't even. It's hard to explain because that game just like opened my mind to so many different things. Like, so the character of Cloud, first of all, oh, I forgot to say, Cloud is an INFP, and I identify with him so much. Like, even the fact that he was like being fake before at the beginning when he was still had the persona of Zack, and he was acting like a jerk and stuff at the beginning of the story until he found his real self, and then that's when he's an INFP. At the beginning, I'm not really sure what his personality type is before. I never really thought about it, but yeah, the actual Cloud character is an INFP. So, and so yeah, really I identify with him so much. and like the whole story, like how it had to do with like psychology and stuff, and like the uh, like identity and things like that. Like I never had seen anything like that in a video game, especially. Um, and then also it opened up this whole new door to like Japanese culture that I had never really experienced, because I had never really played, even though I played video games that were from Japan. I never really played like a JRPG or something like that, where it was like more immersed in that culture, because most of the games that I played were just games that were that like everybody would play. Like yeah, that's pretty much it. I just played games that were cool for everybody to play. That was like something like that. So so I played Final Fantasy VII. After I beat it, it just opened up this whole new avenue of new things, because around that same time, one of my best friends, Tony, was trying to get me to watch Dragon Ball Z, and this was like I was probably in like 10th or 11th grade, and I was like, man, I'm grown, man. I'm not watching cartoons. What are you talking about? And he'd be like, man, it's anime. Anime is not a cartoon. It's different. It's like this isn't for kids. And I was like, yeah, right, man. I'm not watching cartoons. I'm too old to be watching cartoons. So I never gave anime or like Dragon Ball Z a chance. And so one day after school, and this was after I played Final Fantasy VII, and this was my only exposure to any like anime like art style or anything like that, was Final Fantasy VII. So I was flipping through the channels after school one day, and Dragon Ball Z happened to come on, and so this was the first time I had seen another character with like the spiky hair and everything, and like his pants are kind of like similar to Cloud's, even though they're a different color, and his whole outfit sort of is sort of similar. So I was like, is this a Final Fantasy TV show? And I was like, is this Cloud or like? And I was like, but he has black hair. Is that Zack? Like, so I started watching it. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I just stumbled upon this Final Fantasy TV show. And so I watched it, and I was just like, man, this is sweet. Like these fight scenes are super dope, man. And then eventually like a commercial came on, and it was like, next time on Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, oh, this is that show that Tony's been trying to get me to watch, Dragon Ball Z, that I never gave a chance. I was like, dang, this is nice. This is really cool. So then that opened a whole new door to like just loving anime and in general. Like I started watching Toonami when that was out back then. So I watched like all kinds of anime on there, like Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, all this stuff that was on there at that time. Even like my name that I use when I'm rapping is Hakudoshi, and that's based off of an anime character, Hakudoshi from Inuyasha. So Final Fantasy VII opened this door to like all this different stuff, and so my whole life after that, after I played Final Fantasy VII, was different, because I wasn't trying to be like this cool. After I played it, I was like, and I liked it. I was like, well, I guess I'm not that cool, because I like something like this. So I guess it's cool for me to like be into all the other stuff that I thought wasn't cool before. That ended up being some of my favorite stuff. Um, so yeah, it just changed my whole perspective and like opened my mind to stuff that I just would have never given a chance to before. And I'm planning on making some other videos about like Cloud as a character, like a character profile about him, and about the way the Final Fantasy game subverts expectations, like with their characters and their character models and like their roles and stuff like that. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to talk about this franchise, because it just changed everything about who I am. Like even my son is named Sky. I named him Sky after Cloud, because I didn't want to just straight up name him Cloud, but his name is inspired by Cloud Strife. Like that's why I named him Sky. And I would have never even like moved to Asia or anything. I never would have been interested in Asian culture, so I never would have had the thought like, oh, I want to go and try to teach English in Japan or Korea, and then I would have never eventually moved to Thailand to teach English, and I would have never met my wife and had my kids. So like everything in my life is different, because or like it all started with Final Fantasy VII. It's like that the Dr. Seuss book, because a little bug went kachoo. Like the Final Fantasy VII was the kachoo that like just the springboard that changed the whole rest of my life. And like that might sound silly, but like in real life, like that's what led to all the other things in my life. That yeah, like the way my life has been shaped. It started with Final Fantasy VII, and that's still my favorite game of all time. Like especially my favorite one-player game. Smash Brothers is close as far as like multiplayer games, and then Zelda is close too. But I only started playing Zelda because I didn't have a PlayStation back then, and Zelda was the closest thing to Final Fantasy that I could find on Nintendo. So I started playing Zelda, and Ocarina of Time is my other favorite game of all time. So yeah, so like it just opened me up to all these new things. I remember I was at the lunch table one time talking about Final Fantasy VII, and one of my friends then, like, who was actually like a cool guy, uh, and he was like, man, I'm not playing anything like that with like potions and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that's exactly what I used to think. But until I played it and saw like how amazing it was, like the characters, the story, the immersion, like that was the thing. Like uh, I mean, I've always like no matter how I acted, I've always been an INFP, and like I always like found ways to sort of escape reality and like find like different worlds to go into in my imagination. And like Final Fantasy VII, like the way you were immersed in that game was just a revelation for me. Like it changed the whole, like it changed everything. It changed like what I was interested in. It changed like what I the possibilities of what a video game could be. When before I played that, I thought that games were just, I don't know, something you do for fun. Like I never really considered a video game to be a kind of art, and that's the thing. Like Final Fantasy VII and the Final Fantasy series in general is art. And I mean, and nowadays you can see like how games are an art form, and it's more accepted in culture. So, but back then in 1997, or I played it in maybe like 98 or 99 because I was late coming to it since I wouldn't play it when my cousin was first telling me to play it. I was a little bit late, maybe like 1998 I was playing it. But yeah, so like back then I didn't think of games as an art form, but now it definitely is, and I think that that's sort of accepted in popular culture, sort of, but not quite, but more than it was before. But yeah, so this for this video, I'm just gonna end it there. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this kind of stuff in the future, but the ones I've been working on are not Final Fantasy related, so we'll have some more like normal kind of stuff on the channel soon. So yeah, I'm sorry if I was just rambling. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time. Peace and love.